Bonjour, alors du coup j'inaugure cette première série de lecture parce que voilà depuis mon enfance j'aime bien lire à voix haute etc etc et je trouvais ça intéressant en fait de partager avec vous et que ça vous apporte quelque chose en même temps. C'est pourquoi je décide de le faire en anglais parce que d'un côté en fait ça va m'aider ça va me donner l'habitude de lire en anglais parce que quand je lis en anglais à voix haute, ça me plaît mieux en fait. J'arrive plus facilement à avancer dans le livre que quand je le lis en fait dans ma tête. Et je pense que ça peut aussi vous aider à développer votre listening, etc. etc. Donc voilà, je trouve que ça pouvait être sympa. Alors, de base, j'étais partie sur un Harlan Coben, sauf qu'en fait, c'était vraiment long. Il y avait 33 chapitres, il me semble, et je lisais un chapitre en fait en 20 minutes. Donc je me suis dit que j'allais arrêter et que j'allais juste continuer de le lire de mon côté. Et du coup, finalement, j'ai choisi de vous lire Harry Potter en anglais. Donc, il me semble que le nom c'est Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Je sais pas si c'est le premier. Oui, il me semble que c'est le premier. En fait, je sais pas, franchement. Je l'ai jamais lu en fait. À chaque fois, je lisais les 2 premières pages et c'est tout. Ça s'arrêtait à là en fait. Donc, j'espère que ça vous plaira parce que je vois que dans mes abonnés, il y en a quand même pas mal qui aiment bien Harry Potter. C'est ce que je comprends tout à fait parce que c'est une saga superbe, autant à l'écrit qu'au niveau des films en fait. Mais c'est vrai que les personnes en général préfèrent lire les livres et quand on aime bien les livres, on sait tous que la version originale est vachement mieux que la version française, même si la traduction n'est pas si mal, n'est pas si mal que ça je trouve en français. Mais voilà, je voulais quand même vous faire partager ce livre, donc voilà, ça sera comme un audible mais en anglais gratuitement sur mon compte. Du coup voilà. Alors je commence. Donc là je vais switcher en anglais. Alors. Désolée si vous entendez un bruit de fond, mais en fait on est en train de monter la cuisine donc ça risque d'être un peu désagréable. Now I will speak only in English. So I will try to add some pictures all along the video just to give you a better understanding of the story. But you know, as it's Harry Potter, I think that everyone know what is it, so that will be easy for you. I will just introduce you at the beginning, you know. So now when I will read it, it will be really easy for you to understand it. So in the first pages, it's just Harry Potter who is narrating. He's arriving in the Dursley's family. So you will have a presentation of Mr. Dursley and Mrs. Dursley, of, how do we say, Dudley, and of Harry Potter also, of the story of their family. So yeah, that's like an introduction. So yeah. Let's start. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you would accept to be involved in anything strange or mysterious because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a film called Grunnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large mustache. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences, spying on the neighbors. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion, there was no finer boy anywhere. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Mrs. Potter was Mrs. Dursley's sister, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Mrs. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as underslish as it was possible to be. The Dursleys shuddered to think what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys know that the Potters had a small son, too, but they had never even seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. When Mr. and Mrs. Dursley woke up on the dull, grey Tuesday our story starts. There was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. Mr. Dursley hummed as he picked out his most boring tie for work, and Mrs. Dursley gossiped away happily as she wrestled a screaming Dudley into his high chair. None of them noticed a large tawny owl flutter past the window. At 8:30, Mr. Dursley picked up his briefcase, pecked Mrs. Dursley on the cheek, and tried to kiss Dudley goodbye, but missed, because Dudley was now having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the walls. "Little tyke," shortly Mrs. Dursley, as he left the house. He got into his car and backed out of number 4's drive. It was on the corner of the street that he noticed the first sign of something peculiar. A car reading a map. For a second, Mr. Dursley didn't realize what he had seen. Then he jerked his head around to look again. There was a tabby cat standing on the corner of Privet Drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. What could he have been thinking of? It must have been a trick of the light. Mr. Dursley blinked and stared at the cat. It stared back. As Mr. Dursley drove around the corner and up the road, he watched the cat in his mirror. It was now reading the sign that said Privet Drive. No, looking at the sign, cats couldn't read maps or signs. Mr. Dursley gave himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind. As he drove towards town, he thought of nothing except a large order of drills he was hoping to get that day. But on the edge of town, drills were driven out of his mind by something else. As he sat in the usual morning traffic jam, he couldn't help noticing that there seemed to be a lot of strangely dressed people about. People in cloaks. Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dressed in funny clothes. They got so you saw on young people. He supposed this was some stupid new fashion. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, and his eyes fell on a hurdle of these weirdos standing quite close by. They were whispering excitedly together. Mr. Dursley was enraged to see that a couple of them weren't Hugh at all. Why that man had to be older than he was, and wearing an emerald green cloak, the nerve of him! But then it struck Mr. Dursley that this was probably some silly stunt. These people were obviously collecting for something. Yes, that would be it. The traffic moved on, and a few minutes later, Mr. Dursley arrived in the Groening's car park, his mind back on drills. Mr. Dursley always sat with his back to the windows in his office underneath the floor. If he hadn't, he might have found it harder to concentrate on drills that morning. He didn't see the owls swooping past in broad daylight, though people down in the street did. They pointed and gazed open-mouthed as owl after owl sped overhead. Most of them had never seen an owl, even at night time. Mr. Dursley, however, had a perfectly normal owl-free morning. He yelled at 5 different people, he made several important telephone calls and shouted a bit more. He was in a very good mood until lunchtime, when he thought he would stretch his legs and walk across the road to buy himself a bun from the baker's opposite. He would forgotten all about the people in cloaks until he passed a group of them next to the bakers. He eyed them angrily as he passed. He didn't know why, but they made him uneasy. These clouds were whispering excitedly too, and he couldn't see a single correcting thing. It was on his way back past them, clutching a large donut in a bag, that he caught a few words of what they were saying. "The Potters, that's right. That's why I heard. Yeah, their son, Harry." Mr. Dursley stopped dead. Fear flooded him. He looked back at the whispers as if he wanted to say something to them, but thought better of it. He dashed back across the road, hurried up to his office, snapped at his secretary not to disturb him, seized his telephone, and had almost finished dialing his home number when he changed his mind. He put the receiver back down and stroked his mustache, thinking, no. He was being stupid. Potter wasn't such an unusual name. He was sure there were a lot of people called Potter who had a son called Harry. Come to think of it, he wasn't even sure his nephew was called Harry. He would never even seen the boy. It might have been Harvey or Harold. There was no point in worrying. Mr. Dursley, she always got so upset at any mention of her sister. He didn't blame her. If he would had a sister like that. But all the same, those people in cloaks. He found it a harder to concentrate on drills that afternoon, and when he left the building at 5 o'clock, he was still so worried that he walked straight into someone just outside the door. "Sorry," he grunted as the tiny old man stumbled and almost fell. It was a few seconds before Mr. Dursley realized that the man was wearing a violet cloak. He didn't seem at all upset at being almost knocked to the ground. On the contrary, his face split into a wide smile, and he said in a squeaky voice that made passers-by stare, "Don't be sorry, my dear sir, for nothing could upset me today. Rejoice, for you know who has gone at last. Even muggles like yourself should be celebrating this happy day." And the old man hugged Mr. Dursley around the middle and walked off. Mr. Dursley stood rooted to the spot. He had been hugged by a complete stranger. He also thought he had been called a muggle, whatever that was. He was rattled. He hurried to his car and set off home, hoping he was imagining things, which he had never hoped before, because he didn't approve of imaginations. As he pulled into the driveway of number 4, the first thing he saw, and it didn't improve his mood, was the tabby cat he'd spotted that morning. It was now sitting on his garden wall. He was sure it was the same one. It had the same markings around its eyes. "Shoo!" said Mr. Dursley loudly. The cat didn't move. It just gave him a stern look. What his normal cat behavior, Mr. Dursley wondered. Trying to pull himself together, he let himself into the house. He was still determined not to mention anything to his wife. Mrs. Dursley had had a nice, normal day. She told him over dinner all about Mrs. next door's problem with her daughter and how Dudley had learned a new word, shan't. Mr. Dursley tried to act normally. When Dudley had been put to bed, he went into the living room in time to catch the last report on the evening news. Finally, bird watchers everywhere have reported that the nation's owls have been behaving very unusually today. Although owls normally hunt at night and are only ever seen in daylight, there have been hundreds of sightings of these birds flying in every direction since sunrise. Experts are unable to explain why the owls have suddenly changed their sleeping pattern. The newsreader allowed himself a grin. "Most mysterious, and now, over to Jim McGuffin with the weather. Going to be any more showers of all tonight, Jim?" "Well, Ted," said the weatherman, I don't know about that, but it's not only the owls that have been acting oddly today. Bureaus as far apart as Kent, Yorkshire and Dundee have been phoning in to tell me that instead of the rain I promised yesterday, they've had a downpour of shooting stars. Perhaps people have been celebrating bonfire night early. It's not until next week, folks. But I can promise a wet night tonight." Mr. Dursley sat frozen in his armchair. Shooting stars all over Britain? Owls flying by daylight? Mysterious people in cloaks all over the place? And a whisper about the polars? Mrs. Dursley came into the living room, carrying 2 cups of tea. It was no good. He would have to say something to her. He cleared his throat nervously. Petunia, dear, you haven't heard from your sister lately, have you?"